Hey, what's going on, gang? This is Nano Stone. Welcome back to my channel and to the 53rd edition of the Rolling Stone. Hope that you're all staying healthy, that you're staying safe, and that more and more importantly, as this pandemic keeps going, that you're all staying sane, that you're all keeping it together up in here, and that you're not going nutters. I believe that is the clinical definition of the word nutters, as the world seemingly falls apart all around us, which anymore we can't escape from. That's one reason I think why this pandemic is worse, in a sense, than others that have come in the past, because in the past, while things were terrible and while we didn't have the technology and the comforts that we have today, in some sense we could unplug. We could sort of kind of shut out all the outside noise and just kind of concentrate on our homes and our families and our own self-being. We could lose ourselves in a good book or something of that sort. Today, however, since the World Wide Web is still working and since practically everyone has laptop, desktops, iPhones, smartphones, iPads, or something, we are plugged in 24/7. And we hear pundits and commentaries and everyone, give 20 different iterations of the same story, different interpretations, different analysis, contradictory stories flying all over the place, people saying everything's going to hell, people saying, no, that's not true. It's maddening. And if it doesn't drive a man to drink, then it can very, very easily drive a man to dive under the bed and just become one with the dust bunnies or something. So hope that you're all keeping mind, body, and soul healthy and all in one piece. Doing something a little bit different for the start of this edition of the Rolling Stone. As you know, or if you're joining us for the first time, hey, how you doing? We usually have 3 stories that I cover for these Rolling Stone episodes. Stories that I think I wouldn't be able to make into a regular On the Stone video for earlier in the week. Supposedly, they're supposed to be getting out on Tuesday. That doesn't always happen anymore, mea culpa. But this time, I don't want to say that it's a rant, because that's the wrong word for it, but I just need to clear the air and clear my own mind about something, and maybe help clear your minds a little bit too, because as I'm sure you've known, that since the beginning of this pandemic, there have been many voices that have been, for lack of a better term, fence straddlers. They said we need to treat the virus seriously, but at the same time, we need to have a path forward to reopen the country. Common sense stuff. Absolutely, I can get behind that. Other voices, however, have not been so commonsensical. I'm thinking of people such as Jacob Airy at the Dailywire, Matt Walsh, more and more, over at the Dailywire. These are the people who, more often than not, are insisting that nothing should have ever been shut down, that everything is fine, everything is hunky-dory, and even at the very, very beginning, when mayors and governors were issuing out stay-at-home orders, or we were advising everyone to stay at home, they were saying, this is tyranny, this is terrible, etc., etc. Well, this week came the straw that broke the proverbial camel's back, at least for me, because I was on social media, i.e. Twitter, upon which I am on probably more than I should be, and I saw a tweet by Jacob Airy where he used a phrase that I believe he coined. If he didn't coin it, then he definitely has utilized it very, very well. And it was the lockdown cons, the lockdown conservatives, which he throws into the same camp as progressives, right? In his mind, these quote-unquote lockdown cons, these people who basically are saying, no, it was a good thing initially, to shut things down, because we didn't know exactly what was going on. We didn't know what we were dealing with. So, at least at the very beginning, shutting things down, trying to get people to stay at home was the smart thing to do. Okay, he's saying, no. like Jacob Airy and Matt Walsh, are of the opinion now that that was never good. So those people, these quote-unquote lockdown cons, they're the same as the progressives. They are power mongers, they are power mad, and they're control freaks. And if you happen to be one of those people, okay, someone that Jacob Airy would call a lockdown con, I just have one message for you. You are not. You are not a communist. You are not a fascist. You are not a control freak. You are not, just on the basis of that, you are not part of the left. No matter what anybody says, you are not. You are not, a tinfoil hat scared rabbit, as Candace Owens actually tried to insinuate this past week as well on a TikTok video that she made, where she was basically going on and on, like saying, well, if you're scared to leave your home, if you want to live under your bed in fear, then you do that, but let the rest of us, go about and live our lives and blah, 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 basically be Americans, etc. You are not a coward. You are not a tinfoil hat wearing scared rabbit if you are still worried about this coronavirus. I feel like I need to say that because more and more, there seem to be more and more voices on the right that are saying that, or they are implying this. Let me just give people like Jacob Airy and Candace Owens and Matt Walsh a point that always seems to escape them. Okay? This thing, this coronavirus, which has plunged the world into a pandemic, it came from a Chinese lab in Wuhan. Okay? It is not at all like the N1H1 virus for that reason alone. Right? You've seen people on Twitter and social media, I'm sure you have, saying, well, we didn't shut down the economy 10 years ago when the swine flu, when the bird flu came in, etc. So why are we doing it here? It's because those things didn't come from a laboratory. Those things didn't come from a laboratory in China, a country, need I remind you. And if you saw this past week's episode of The Rolling Stone, you know exactly my feelings about the current government of China in Beijing, the Chinese Communist Party. It holds absolutely no goodwill towards us. Absolutely none at all. So, since we know that the Communist Party of China basically funded the creation of this virus in one of their top virological labs in the center of the country, why are people insisting that there is absolutely nothing to worry about? Why are people insisting that, the people who are saying that, hey, this is a big problem. This is, we still don't know what's going on. We still don't know what this thing is really. We need to definitely have a plan forward. We need to have a plan going forward to reopen the country. But at the same time, we can't go back to how things were in October of 2019 when everything was normal. We can't go back to that. Okay? Those are the people who say that we have to progress steadily. I think those are the voices of common sense. And those are the people who actually are trying to do what is best for the country, or to express what is best for the country. Because there are news stories out that we still don't know what this virus is doing, what it's capable of. So, for example, we used to think that the coronavirus was just a respiratory virus, that it attacked the lungs. Well, now it appears that with some people at least, it can attack the heart. With some people again, it seems that it can attack the brain. Some people who seem to be cured of it, all of a sudden either get it again or it comes back like it never left. It just went into recession in their body and then it came back. And then there was another story, or another talking point that came up this week, because more and more people are getting tested for the virus. And what they're finding is that they don't have the virus, but they have antibodies for the virus, which means that they had the virus at some point in time, because if they had never had the virus, then their body wouldn't have made antibodies to it. But they say that, these people are saying, but I never had any symptoms. None whatsoever. I never felt sick, never, had lost my sense of taste, sense of smell, never felt fatigue, never had headaches, never had, any of the myriad signs that supposedly shows that you have the coronavirus. So a lot of people have taken that as good news. Like, oh, look, probably thousands more people had it and never even realized it. This is great news. In a sense, it is, and in a sense, it's really bad news, potentially, because what if the chaos, this chaos was all part of the plan? And let me put it like this. A virus that is, a virus that affects people in such radically different ways. Some people, they just, get really sick, like with a bad flu. Other people, they die from it. They say, it's like, I can hardly breathe. Other people, it doesn't affect at all. With some people, it attacks the heart. Some people, it attacks the brain. And we don't know still why it affects different people differently. What if that was all part of the plan? Again, going back to the fact that we know now that this thing came from a laboratory. What if that was the plan, okay? Say what you want about the Communist Party in China. They're smart. They have probably seen enough disaster movies that they've imported from Hollywood, read enough dystopian novels, and they probably just have enough common sense to know that if you create one of these super viruses that is the stuff of dystopian novels, that if it escapes and it spreads throughout the world and kills 98% of the population, then you're probably going to be part of that 98%. You don't want to do that. Instead, create a virus that will leave the majority of people alone. But when it infects people, you never know exactly what's going to happen. And what does that do? Well, it causes chaos. Since you can't predict what it's going to do, a virus that is highly contagious, even when you're asymptomatic, that does have a higher mortality rate, it seems like still, than the flu, but which you cannot predict what it's going to do to you. You can't predict at all. You can't predict the symptoms 100%. You can't predict, right, how it's going to affect you in any way, shape, or form from person to person, because it changes. Then what you have done is that you have sowed chaos. And where there is chaos, there is fear. And where there is chaos and there is fear, there is always opportunity for someone else to take advantage of that. Okay? Now, that's just my own personal theory based on the little I know. It's not even really a theory. It's a possibility that I keep in my mind. Because if anyone asks me, well, okay, smart guy, where's your proof for this? I have none. I have absolutely none. However, just from what we know, again, that it came from a lab, that the Chinese Communist Party is not our friend, that it is highly contagious and has a high mortality rate, higher than the flu, but that it is very, very unpredictable in how it is going to affect people from a case-by-case-by-case basis, just seems to suggest, it offers the possibility in my mind that this is what it was designed to do. It was designed to spread fear, and it was designed to cause chaos. Not saying again that the Communist Party deliberately released it. I still think that it was accidentally released. But at the same time, I believe, that I believe in the possibility that it was that this was its actual goal. Not maybe to kill whole swaths of people, but to spread chaos and to spread panic, which means, again, that you can't go back to how things were back in October, back in September. Am I saying that we have to live in fear for the rest of our lives and that everything has to be shut down for the next 18 months to 2 years while we wait for a vaccine if it's coming? No, that's stupid. That's idiotic. No one can do that because money isn't endless, right? Even if the government was giving $5,000 checks to every man, woman, and child in this country and that they were coming on time, there wouldn't be enough money to keep everything going for that long. Okay, just from an economic point of view. So what I'm saying is that the point is you definitely have to have some sort of a plan to start. And again, some states are starting to open, like in the case of Georgia. And some states are starting to downgrade their stay-at-home orders just to downgrade it to just, it's a safer at-home order. You're safer at home, but you don't have to stay at home because it looks like the worst is behind us. Okay, so things are crawling towards that direction, which is good. But I just felt the need to get that out there to just anyone who thinks like I do, right? That no, you are not part of the problem. You are not a lockdown conservative. You are not a power monger. You are not a fascist. You are not a communist. You are not someone with a tinfoil hat living in fear. You are a commonsensical person. And you are actually engaging in reality, I would say, as it is, instead of what you just would like it to be. But anyway, that's not really story number one, but that's our first segment for this week.